The concept of bravery has been a central tenet in leadership throughout history. Whether in war, politics, or social justice movements, the courage to stand up for what one believes and make difficult decisions is often what distinguishes great leaders from mediocre ones. Below are some inspiring stories from history's greatest leaders who exemplified the art of bravery. Joan of Arc. Joan of Arc was a French peasant girl who led the French army to several important victories during the 100 Years' War. At the age of just 17, armed with a divine mission, she convinced the Dauphin of France to give her an army to reclaim Orleans from the English occupation. Her bravery and tactical genius inspired her troops, and she successfully led them to victory. Despite being captured and burned at the stake, her legacy lived on, turning the tide of the war and leading to her canonization as a saint. Mahatma Gandhi. Mahatma Gandhi led India's struggle for independence from British rule through a philosophy of non-violent civil disobedience. Gandhi organized boycotts against British institutions and goods, leading mass protests and strikes. Despite being arrested and imprisoned multiple times, his resolve never wavered. His courage to stand against a powerful empire eventually led to India gaining its independence in 1947. Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela spent 27 years in prison for his role in fighting apartheid, the system of institutionalized racial segregation in South Africa. Despite the personal cost, Mandela remained steadfast in his belief in equality. After his release, he continued the struggle, becoming the nation's first black president in 1994. He exemplified bravery not just in his resistance, but in his willingness to forgive and seek reconciliation. Rosa Parks. The bravery of Rosa Parks might seem subtle but was immensely powerful. By refusing to give up her seat to a white man on a segregated bus in Montgomery, Alabama, she sparked the Montgomery bus boycott, a pivotal event in the civil rights movement. This simple act required extraordinary courage and led to a chain of events that would help dismantle institutional racism in the United States. Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister during World War II, is renowned for his leadership during one of the darkest periods in modern history. With Britain on the brink of invasion, Churchill inspired his nation with speeches that are still cited today. His courage and resolve, particularly during the Battle of Britain, served as a beacon of hope, not just for the British people, but for the entire free world. Malala Yousafzai. As a young girl, Malala Yousafzai stood up for the education of women in her native Pakistan, where the Taliban had banned girls from attending school. After surviving an assassination attempt at the age of 15, she continued her activism, becoming the youngest ever Nobel Prize laureate. Her bravery serves as an inspiration to millions around the world advocating for women's rights and education. These leaders show that bravery comes in many forms, from the battlefield to peaceful protest, from enduring imprisonment to challenging social norms. Their stories serve as powerful lessons that courage is not the absence of fear, but the ability to act in spite of it. Whether leading nations or sparking social change, these individuals demonstrate the art of bravery in leadership, proving that one person can indeed make a difference. Harriet Tubman. Harriet Tubman was an African-American abolitionist who escaped slavery and then returned to the South 19 times to help other slaves find freedom via the Underground Railroad. Each trip was fraught with danger, as she risked recapture, punishment, or even death. Tubman's bravery was not just in her initial escape, but in her determination to help others achieve the same, proving that bravery sometimes means putting others before oneself. Oskar Schindler. Oskar Schindler was a German industrialist who saved more than 1,200 Jews during the Holocaust by employing them in his factories. Although initially motivated by economic interests, Schindler soon came to care deeply for his workers and went to great lengths to protect them. Schindler risked his life and spent his entire fortune bribing Nazi officials and buying supplies to keep his workers alive. His bravery was in defying a totalitarian regime at significant personal risk. Aung San Suu Kyi. Aung San Suu Kyi led Myanmar's democracy movement against the military junta that ruled the country. For her efforts, she spent nearly 15 years under house arrest. Despite this, she continued to advocate for democracy, human rights, and non-violence. She won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1991 while still under house arrest. Though her legacy has been complicated by her handling of the Rohingya crisis in recent years, her initial acts of bravery continue to serve as an inspiration for democratic activists. Martin Luther King Jr. Martin Luther King Jr. led the civil rights movement in the United States, advocating for an end to racial segregation and discrimination. King's bravery was evident in his commitment to nonviolence, even when faced with extreme aggression and violence from those who opposed his views. Arrested over 30 times, King faced threats to his life and the lives of his family members but never wavered in his commitment to justice and equality. His leadership culminated in the Civil Rights Act of 1964, which outlawed segregation and discrimination based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Simone Bolivar. Simone Bolivar was a Venezuelan military and political leader who led several South American countries to independence from the Spanish Empire. Known as El Libertador, his bravery on the battlefield and his resolve in the face of multiple defeats inspired a continent to rise against imperial rule. Bolivar's courage was also intellectual. He envisioned a unified South America and worked tirelessly, albeit unsuccessfully, to bring that vision to fruition. Emmeline Pankhurst. Emmeline Pankhurst was a British political activist and leader of the British suffragette movement that helped women win the right to vote. Pankhurst faced constant arrest and imprisonment for her activism. Her radical tactics, including hunger strikes and property damage, shocked many but were instrumental in drawing attention to women's suffrage. She showed immense bravery in confronting a system that was deeply resistant to change, influencing social justice movements for years to come. The art of bravery, as exhibited by these leaders, is often a complex interplay of courage, sacrifice, vision, and the ability to inspire others. While the circumstances and challenges each faced were different, the common thread that binds them is their remarkable courage to act against the odds and make a significant impact. Their stories serve as a compelling testament to the transformative power of bravery in leadership.